Jnanakosha, Puranas.
सर्गच्च प्रतिसर्गच्च वंशो मन्वन्तराणि च वंशानुचरितं चैव पुराणं पञ्चलक्षणम्.
Markandeya Purana, Karandama. Markandeya says King Kaninetra went at the bank of the river Gomati and started doing a severe penance to please Indra. After being pleased by his devotion and eulogy, Indra appeared before him. He said to Kaninetra, O king, I am very much pleased by your devotion. Demand anything you wish. The king replied, O Lord, if you are really pleased with me, then bless me with a religious and virtuous son, because I am a sonless person. Indra blessed him by saying, So be it, and then disappeared. Kaninetra returned to his palace. In course of time, a son was born to him. He named the child Balashva. When Balashva grew up, he became the king after the death of his father. He annexed many kingdoms after defeating his enemies and imposed taxes on them. After some time, his enemies not only stopped paying him the taxes but also regrouped themselves and recaptured their lost territories. Balashva had become weak due to the constant battles. He had only the capital city in his possession and had lost the other territories. One day, his enemies surrounded his capital. Balashva became restless as he would be no match for his enemies. In a sorrowful mood, he heaved deeply, covering his face by both his hands. The exhaled air resulted into the manifestation of numerous valiant fighters, chariots, elephants, and horses. Very soon, this huge army covered the whole area. This army battled under the leadership of Balashva. Ultimately, the enemies were defeated. Later on, King Balashva became famous as Kardham because of the huge army which had manifested from between both the trembling hands of Balashva. King Avikshit, birth of Avikshit and abduction of Vaishalini. Markandeya says Shubhrata, the daughter of Veerachandra, had decided to marry Karatham. A son was born to them who was named as Avikshit. The astrologers had predicted a very bright future for him. Avikshit learnt lessons in handling all kingdoms of weapons from the son of Kanva. In a very short time, he attained mastery in the art of weaponry. Vara, Gauri, Subhadra, Nibha, Lilavati, Manyavati, and Kumri Dhwati had chosen Avikshit as their husband in a Swayamvara. Avikshit had also forcibly married numerous other women. Once a Swayamvara was conducted in the palace of the king of Vishal for his daughter Shudati Vaishalini. Avikshit was present in the Swayamvara, but Sudati, due to her arrogant nature, did not choose Avikshit as her husband. Hence, he forcibly abducted her by defeating the other king. The fact that a single man had defeated all of them had made the other kings ashamed of themselves. All of them decided to fight Avikshit unitedly. They picked up their arms and marched towards Avikshit with a huge army. Avikshit defeated liberation and disenchantment. Markandeya says a ferocious battle ensued between Avikshit's army and the other kings. Both sides fought bravely, and Avikshit managed to kill many of the kings but was outnumbered and got severely wounded. Avikshit was finally made captive. Avikshit and Saudati Vaishalini were brought to the king of Vishal. The king instructed Shudati Vaishalini to choose any king as her husband, but she refused this offer. The king then requested his astrologer to choose an auspicious day for her marriage. The astrologer said to the king, O king, the present time is not auspicious for marriage, but don't worry, very soon the princess would get married at the advent of the most auspicious moment. When King Karadam came to know about his son's defeat and captivity, he consulted his friends. All of them decided to attack the kingdom of Vishal and release Avikshit from captivity. Kardam marched towards the kingdom of Vishal, followed by a huge army. A tremendous battle was fought for 3 days. Kardam became victorious in his battle. At last, Avikshit was rescued from his captivity. King Vishal decided to marry his daughter with Avikshit, but Avikshit was delusioned with life. He said to Vishal, I can never accept such a woman as my wife who has witnessed my defeat. I have decided to renounce life, so it would be better if you marry your daughter with somebody else. King Vishal asked his daughter to choose any other king as her husband, as Avikshit was not willing to marry her. But the princess wanted to marry Avikshit and believed that he still remained an undefeated king because he had fought single-handedly with all the kings. He was defeated only because of unfair means adopted by his jealous rivals in the battle. I shall accept only Avikshit as my husband, otherwise I shall remain unmarried, said the princess. King Kardam requested his son to marry the princess, but Avikshit turned down even his father's request. Seeing the futility of his advice, Kardam returned to his kingdom. Avikshit too went along with him. Sudhati Vaishalini went in the forest to do penance. She observed a fast for 3 months. She became very weak but still continued with her penance. The deities felt sorry at her condition. They sent an envoy to persuade her to discontinue with her penance. The envoy requested her to stop torturing herself. You would be a mother of a Chakravarti king who would be mighty and powerful, said the envoy. Sudhati Vishalini said, How can I become a mother without a husband? I have decided that nobody except Avikshit will be my husband, but he has turned down my proposal. So I have vowed to remain unmarried in this life. The envoy said, O great soul, I have been asked not to reveal much. You must take care of your health. Due to the virtues of your penance, you will certainly become a mother. Sudhati, following her instructions, and broke her fast. Avikshit promises his father to get married. Markandeya says, Once Ira, the wife of King Kardama and mother of Avikshit, has taken a vow to accomplish a very arduous penance, but this could only be accomplished with Kardama's and Avikshit's assistance. Kardamam had assured her that he would provide all the wealth required for the accomplishment of that austerity, while Avikshit had assured her of physical health. Veera commenced her arduous austerity named Kimichakka Vrata. This particular Vrata had a peculiar characteristic, and that was any demand made during the course of the Vrata ought to be fulfilled at any cost, failing which meant forfeiting all the virtues of this arduous austerity. King Karadam was consulting his minister about the means that would change Avikshit's decision regarding his marriage. The minister said that as Karadamam had become old, there was an urgent need for his successor. The question was that who would become king after Avikshit, as he had decided to remain unmarried. This thought was tormenting all of them. Suddenly King Karadama heard the priest who was assisting Queen Veera in the accomplishment of the Kamichak Vrata telling somebody, The queen is busy performing the Kamichak Vrata. What is your demand? I promise it will be fulfilled by the queen, no matter how extraordinary it may be. Avikshit too arrived at the scene. He promised that their demands would be met without delay, as it was obligatory for the success of Kamichak Vrata, which his mother was performing. Seeing the time as opportune, King Kardama said before the people could say anything, "O son, I have a demand. Promise me that you will fulfill it." Avikshit gave his word. The king said that he aspired for a grandson, but this was impossible unless Avikshit got married. Initially, Avikshit tried to convince Kardam that it was an impossible task as he has vowed to remain a celibate, but ultimately he had to change his mind to honor his word. Avikshit rescues Vaishalini. Markandeya says once Avikshit had gone for a hunt in the forest when suddenly he heard a female voice shouting for help. He proceeded in the direction of the voice. After reaching there, he saw Danu, the demon son Dhriti Daksha, holding a lady by her hair. The woman was crying, "I am the wife of Avikshit. This wicked demon is trying to abduct me." Avikshit was surprised as to how could the lady claim that she was his wife. He apprehended that it must be the illusionary tactics of the demon to trap him. But despite his apprehension, he went near the wailing woman to release her from the clutches of that demon. He warned the demon of dire consequences if he did not release her. The demon left the woman and attacked Avikshit. A tremendous duel was fought. In the end, Avikshit severed the head of that demon. The deities were very pleased at Dhritikesha's death. They praised Avikshit for his bravery. They asked him to demand any boon. Avikshit demanded a valiant son for himself as per the aspirations of his father Kardama. The deity said, "You would get your son from this very woman you have rescued. The child would become a very mighty king after growing up." Being unaware of the real identity of Vaishalini, he told the deities, "I had vowed to remain a bachelor but changed my decision only due to the word I had given to my father. But I cannot marry this woman because by doing so I would be breaching the trust of that woman who wanted to marry me and who had rejected everybody for my sake." The deities then revealed to him that this lady was none other than Vaishalini, whom he was talking about. She had done a severe penance to be your wife. After saying this, the deities disappeared. Vaishalini requested him to accept her as his wife. "You have rescued me from this demon. I offer myself to you," said Vaishalini. Avikshit marries Vaishalini. Markandeya says after Vaishalini had finished her lines, Avikshit told her that he was forced to abandon her in the past after getting defeated, but once again he has regained her after defeating the demon. Both of them decided to get married in the forest itself. Right then a Gandharva, Tanaya, arrived there accompanied by many apsaras and revealed to Avikshit that Vaishalini was his daughter in her previous birth. Because of the curse given to her by sage Agastya, she was born to the king of Vishal. Now you must accept her as your wife. Avikshit married Vaishalini under the supervision of Tumburu, the priest of the Gandharvas. Both of them then accompanied the Gandharvas to the Gandharva Loka. There Vaishalini gave birth to a son. Knowing about the feats the child would accomplish in future, the Gandharva celebrated his birth ceremony with great fanfare. After the birth ceremony, while Tumburu was eulogizing the child, everybody heard a heavenly voice which said, "This child will become famous as Marut. He will become the ruler of all the Mahipals." Everybody was extremely satisfied by this forecast. King Marut. Marut ascends the throne. Markandeya says, Markandeya says, after the birth of Marut, Avikshit, accompanied by Vaishalini, returned to his father's palace. After making salutations to his father, he kept the newborn baby in his lap and told him that he had kept his word. Kardamam became very pleased after seeing his grandson. In course of time, Marut grew up. He had mastered all the scriptures, was also proficient in handling all kinds of weapons. There was nobody like him. Kardam had become old. He decided to go to the forest after making Avikshit the king, but Avikshit was not interested in becoming a king. He too wanted to go to the forest. He said, the shame of the defeat still remains there. How can a person who was not able to protect himself protect his subjects? Karnam tried his best to convince him to become his successor, but Avikshit was firm in his resolve, finding no other option. Marut was made the king. Marut went to the forest and did penance for 1,000 years. His wife did the same and went to live in sage Bhargava's hermitage. A hermit advises Marut on behalf of Veera. Kaustuki asks Markandeya, O Lord, we want to know more about Marut. Markandeya says, after becoming the king, Marut started ruling in a just manner. He performed many yajnas under the supervision of numerous yajnikas and esteemed priests. Angira's son Samrat and Brihaspati's brother were his chief priests under whose supervision the yajnas used to be performed. Samrat had brought the peak of Munjavan mountain after uprooting it for Marut. King Marut's palace and the sacred oblation site were constructed on this very mountain peak. One day a hermit said to Marut, Younger, your grandmother Veera is very tormented by the nuisance the serpents are creating around the sacred oblation site. She is very displeased by your negligence. The serpents have bitten 7 sons of a sage and have also polluted the water of the sacred pond. The sages have started making offerings to the serpents to please them. Instead of paying attention on the performance of the yajna, although the sages are capable of destroying the serpent, yet they have decided against doing so, as this is not their job. This is the job of a king. A king should be aware of such and every event taking place in his kingdom. You are not aware of the misdeeds of the serpents because you don't have any detective to keep you informed of such events. Being a king, it is your duty to protect your subjects by punishing the wrongdoers. If you don't do this, then you will become a sinner. O king, your grandmother is very much concerned about your negligent attitude and wants you to act in a very way befitting king. The serpents take the refuse of Bhamini, Vaishalini. Markandeya says Marut was ashamed after hearing the sage's words. He cursed himself for his negligence. He picked up his bow and arrows in anger and went to the oblation site. When he reached there, he saw the dead bodies of 7 hermits lying on the ground. Being enraged, he picked up his most devastating weapon named Samvartak. The serpents became terrified as the tremendous amount of heat generated by this weapon had started to burn them. Unable to bear the tremendous heat caused by the weapon, the serpents took the refuse of Bhamini, Vaishalini, the mother of Marut. Sometime in the past, Vaishalini had promised to protect the serpents when in danger. Vaishalini requested her husband, Avikshit, to persuade Marut against killing the serpent. Avikshit told her that the intensity of Marut's anger was a result of the grave sins committed by the serpent. But for your sake, I will request him to pardon the serpent. If he still does not agree to stop killing the serpents, then I will have no option but to destroy his weapon, Samvartak. After saying this, Avikshit picked up his bow and arrows and went to the oblation site accompanied by his wife.